Welcome to the Cycling in Alignment podcast, an examination of cycling as a practice and dialogue about the integration of sport in right relationship to your life.
Greetings, space monkeys. Did you know that you can go to my website, colbypierce.com, and book an integrative bicycle fitting? What is an integrative bicycle fitting, you ask? And why didn't you just call it a bike fit, Pierce? Well, allow me to explain. An integrative bicycle fitting is a unique product that achieves a high level of client understanding through examination of holistic movement patterns and systems throughout the body, including muscular, fascial, visceral, neurological, lymphatic, circulatory, respiratory, and limbic systems. These are understood in the context of how the dream, goal, or objective aligns life for the client's choices and habits. The environment, psyche, and drive will result in the current expression of athletic ability. This product was created to serve riders who have not found satisfactory results from conventional fitting methods. By taking time to understand an athlete on a level with more depth, we allow space for change in trajectory, which can bring about healing. Orthodox or conventional bike fitting looks at a rider through a biomechanical lens, understanding the athlete as a system of levers that applies power to the pedals and nothing more. Ostensibly, when the relationship of these levers is optimized, the rider will perform to their potential. If a rider's challenges fall outside the scope of this model, often the problems will go unresolved. By attempting to solve all problems with only biomechanical tools, we are limiting the choices we have to bring the athlete to a higher state of health. We must expand our toolbox and widen the scope of our methods in order to serve the client more completely. Cycling is a battleground which will test you on every level if you go far enough. It will break you down to your nucleus and give you the opportunity to build yourself back up again. It can provide the landscape for your own hero's journey. The integrative bicycle fitting is designed to assist you in this process. A session will take about 6.5 hours and have 4 phases. Phase 1 is observation. We meet at the Fit Studio and go for a ride of about an hour. During this ride, I will take video footage of you in the real world. Then we will return to the shop for a comprehensive holistic movement assessment and more video taken indoors. Phase 2 is discussion, education, and mapping. In this phase, we discuss what we learned from our video footage, and I educate you about your current movement patterns. Then we decide the course of action and discuss recommendations. In the third phase, known as change, we take initial bicycle measurements and we begin to make changes in the contact points of the bike. We also do an off-the-bike movement review, instruction of essential movement practices, cycling technique, and posture on the bike. The final phase, integration, involves the completion of the fit process in which I take final bicycle measurements and we have closing discussion. If you want to read more about my integrative fitting sessions, please visit colbypierce.com, click on services, and then you'll find the link to integrative bicycle fitting. You'll also see a link to my scheduling calendar there. Thank you for listening, and please remember to always think critically, act intuitively, and pedal consciously. Yes.
I want to be hard to kill.
I want to be hard to kill. For sure. I don't want to walk, carry the groceries into the house and be like, oh, my lower back hurts, or, my legs got sore from going up those stairs with that.
Yeah, that's not going to be good.
That is not good. No. I remember what I was going to say earlier, which was going back to belief systems about exercise.
You did remember it.
I did remember.
You knew you were around.
It just took a little longer than I thought because we got so much going on. So it goes in the category of program beliefs. What do we do, colloquially speaking, in modern society when we want to get strong? We go to the gym and pick up heavy stuff. What do you do when you need flexibility? You go to yoga.
Yep.
Yoga, that's it. There's a lot to say there, but there are 8 limbs of yoga, not just one, and one is not flexibility. Asana, which is movement in yoga, is really, the purpose of that is to prepare you to sit in meditation comfortably, so you're not distracted by the body. So that goes back to Phil Beach's ideas of sitting on the ground. Can you sit on the ground cross-legged for 20 minutes without your lower back hurting, your knees hurting, your hips hurting, whatever? That's the idea. And meditation ultimately is preparation for death with grace. Mm-hmm. That's the big picture for yoga. Yeah. But we polarize these two things. Strength is over here. Yeah. Flexibility is over here. This makes no sense.
Right.
I do not want strength without flexibility, nor do I want flexibility without strength. I want to be Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yes.
I want to be able to kick someone in the head with a high kick. I mean, I don't really like to kick people in the head, but conceptually.
Yeah.
So same thing. When I'm in my cycling position, I want to be able to generate force from that closed hip position with that, high level of dorsiflexion of the ankle, right?
It's being able to produce power at end ranges.
Yes, with control at the joint, with fluid muscle, supple muscle, right? Not just axe chopping pedals. So
they did it cool, like it was a Brazilian research study, and they looked at people ages 51 to 80, right? And what they had them do was like stand up and then sit down on the ground, right? Can I stand up here?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, and then like sit down on the ground.
Yeah,
right?
Without
touching, right? So you got like 5 points for the way down and 5 points for the way back up. And that is a combination of strength and flexibility, right? Mobility. Can you control the down? Can you move your hips and your ankles? And can you also get your system, strong and stable to be able to power yourself back up?
Right.
And what they found in the study was that the people who could not do that, they did it over years, died earlier, right? Their longevity was
correlation
decreased.
with all-cause mortality, right? Yeah.
But the cool thing is when they looked at working with these people and they could increase their number, right? Or make them more mobile and stronger, that also had a positive effect on their longevity. And I mean,
that's so cool.
And so that's what I sometimes tell my patients. Just, I want you to stand up, sit down on the floor, and then try to get back up again.
Without using your hands.
Without using your hands. Without right? It's just down and back up.
But how? Doesn't matter. Just do it. Just show me you can do it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you start to see as we age, like that is a problem for people. They'll be like, I don't want to get on the floor.
Yeah.
I don't want to get back up.
Right.
Or I can't get back up, which is scarier.
Which is, again, brings us back to Peter, which is he asks his clients, what's your future goal?
Yeah.
People will say, I want to be able to sit on the floor with my grandchildren and play Legos.
Yeah.
Well, do you need to have someone help you get up and down every time you want to sit on the floor, or can you just get on the floor? Right. And can you get back up? I want to be able to lift my 12-pound suitcase overhead to put it in the bin when we go to Mexico to go to the beach or whatever. I want to be able to carry that suitcase up the stairs. If I get to an airport where the escalator isn't working and the elevators are too far away and I'm going to miss my flight or whatever. Simple things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to ride my bike.
I'd like to be able to ride my bike. Yeah. Yeah. So you live in Golden, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And are you riding mountain bikes, road bikes, gravel bikes? What's your tool?
Preference is road.
Okay.
I've been dabbling more into my mountain bike lately, but you can hear me coming down.
Yeah.
Because I'm like
on the brakes.
Okay. I just gotta like loosen up a little bit.
Okay. Yeah.
But I like the climb on the road bike.
Yeah. So you go up Lookout or
Yep.
Yeah. So that's a pretty good climb for those who aren't.
So look out and then I'll cruise over and go up into Red Rocks.
Yep. Oh, that's a nice ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's nice.
Yeah. Okay. And tell us what kind of shoes are you riding on your road bike right now?
Lakes.
Okay.
I used to ride in CDs.
Yeah.
And
those are some of the best.
And I had which is how I got into all this is, I was a dancer when I was younger, and then I was a runner, and then I had bunions and neuromas, which are all very similar kind of pathologies that I'll see with my cyclists. And I'd get in my shoe, I put those shoes on, and my whole forefoot would go numb.
Yep. And did you grow up in Colorado? You're a Colorado native?
Pittsburgh.
You grew up in Pittsburgh?
Mm-hmm.
Ah, okay.
And then Chicago.
Okay.
And then I came out here.
Yeah.
And then I was like, this sucks. I don't want my foot to go numb.
Yeah.
And so then I started to look into different footwear. And it was also like, the Lakes have been the best for my foot type.
Mm-hmm.
Do I wish there could be some adjustments? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But for right now, that's what I'm rolling with.
Okay. And so we both had a conversation recently with a guy at Strong Feet Athletics.
Yeah.
Who's made a minimal shoe, which is completely flat.
Yeah.
It's got a nice wide forefoot and a wide toe box from what we can see.
I'm looking forward to trying it.
But yeah, me too. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's certain things you need in the cycling shoe, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you can allow the foot to be in, and maybe here's the spectrum, right? Like maybe some of our rides, we ride in that shoe where the foot feels like it has a little more room, right? You want to increase your speed or, amp it up a little bit, and you want a little bit of a different feel then. But that's where I would be living.
Yeah.
And that's where I live with my footwear.
Yeah. Okay. So limitations of modern footwear might be first toe box shape.
Yeah.
Then we have toe spring and
Like
heel
rockers.
rise, that
Yeah.
rocker position that puts you in
Real stiff. It's not
very
flexible.
stiff, which I mean, I sort of think we have to take that as for what it is to a certain degree, although there are ways around that. On my mountain bike, I use a pedal called the Catalyst pedal.
Okay.
Are you familiar with that? I've got a pair over there I can grab in a minute, but they're the longest pedal on the market. So they're really designed to go from the metatarsals all the way back to the head or the forward part of the calcaneus, the front part of the calcaneus.
Yeah.
And so then you can really, it's as though you're stepping on the ground and the arch can kind of span that hole.
Oh, that's nice.
It's a really nice pedal. So then I use a shoe like this if I want to on it. And in the winter, I use Vivo actually makes really proper like winter boots. And so I'll go on a mountain bike ride on those. I'll put them on there.
That's
like
great.
Snow.
I
And it's
thought
awesome.
about that.
Yeah, they're nice. Those are made by a guy who is in Grand Junction. James Wilson. He's a mountain bike coach.
So it's just longer.
Yeah, I'll grab it.
Yeah.
We'll take a look.
Oh, yeah.
These are called the Catalyst pedal. They're available on Pedaling Innovations.
Yeah, that's
You
nice.
search Catalyst pedal Pedaling Innovations. You'll find James's site. He's got some nice content too. He's kind of a flat pedal evangelist. He really doesn't want anything to do with any pedals that are clipped in at all. I'm not quite there, but I do think there's a good argument for this. But
Yep, I
you
agree.
can see this goes all the way, like the length of the foot, basically. I mean, unless you have, size 50 feet, these would be too short for you. But that's the basic idea. So that's a nice solution.
Yeah, I like those.
And then I'm obviously involved with this lore project, which is sort of
That's awesome.
the crazy end of things. I did a podcast with Stefan and Rob quite a while ago on this idea of the lore shoe, and these are prototypes, so they're a little crude, but this is completely flat, and it's a 3D molded shoe, 3D printed carbon shoe that's based off a 3D scan of your foot.
Yeah.
And the software we have is pretty crazy. Actually, here's the platform for it. It's like a Lazy Susan.
Yeah.
So we put you on that. We get you kind of to supinate and pronate and get the foot square and kind of load the forefoot just gently, kissing the heel.
And then it takes the mold.
And then we do a Lazy Susan scan of a digital scan, and then they use that to print the shoe around that scan.
It's nice.
Pretty crazy. These are not cheap, but very.
I mean, at the end of the day, though, right? If you're going to spend a lot of time, just get something that
right tool for the job.
You got to have the right tool for the job.
Yeah, it's like a saddle.
Right.
Same thing. Yeah.
So.
Okay. So, selfish question.
Yes.
I think I was born with a stiff first ray on my right toe, my right foot. It's always been not great.
Okay.
Been working on it.
Yeah.
But okay, we have, I think it's Wolf's Law, right? When we move a joint too much, it's the nervous system perceives it as hypermobile.
Yeah.
So you try to mobilize a joint that's stiff too much, and we can go too far and get calcification potentially of that joint.
Sure.
I'm on my current list is like I use a far infrared sauna, and I'll try to work it in there and try to distract it a bit and move it around. I'm using things like this to use the plantar fascia or loosen the plantar fascia above the joint. But it's hard to distract a big toe. But in case people don't know, distraction means if a joint is really compressed, we're trying to pull the joint away to allow synovial fluid to come in the joint and allow more movement and more free, more gliding and less sliding.
Can I show you what you can do to fraction that?
Yeah. See, I've also got it's a big fatty.
So if you put that over your knee.
Yep. Like that. Yep.
So when you have that.
Let's go like that.
There we
go.
So this is hallux dorsiflexion.
Yep.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
In normal range, that's a little stiff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We want about 65 degrees, 45 degrees for normal.
Yep.
For an efficient gait.
Mm-hmm.
So when you extend the toe, if there's like a pinching here, right?
Yep.
That's what can start, that inflammatory process, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And then it'll get red and then Wolf's Law. So then you start early jamming the top of the foot and you start to get arthritic change.
Mm-hmm.
But what this first metatarsal was designed to do via peroneus longus, so your ankle stabilizers, right? Extensor hallucis brevis. It drops the first metatarsal down. You remember I said it's all about rate at the foot, right? So what happens first is this guy drops down.
Yep.
Okay. Which then I have a hallux, my phalanx, that can then extend up and over.
Much more. So this has to go that way down towards the ground before this can.
I mean, that even looks better with me doing that.
It does. Yeah.
So when you talk about the distraction, what I would do, right, is down first, right? And then traction. And then as I bring your toe up, I'm pressing this
down
foot or this finger down, right? So it's down, then it's out, and then I will kind of joint play this. And then that's when you're going to get that to open up.
Okay.
And then it'll take away some of that pinching.
Yes, I definitely get that pinching sensation.
You keep jamming that thing, and then eventually a hallux limitus turns into a hallux rigidus.
Right.
And you're basically looking at 5 to 10 degrees out of the toe. That's a problem.
Yep. And you can even see my skin there.
Yeah.
That's for me walking outside barefoot. I get, I'll show everybody on the camera. The skin here on the bottom of my toe frequently gets torn up. That's from that limited ability for me to dorsiflex my toe.
Right.
If these anatomical terms are confused, just remember dorsiflex. Think of the dorsal fin of a shark coming off the top of your foot. So that's
I like that too.
The ability for the toe to move towards the shin or the ankle to move towards the shin, right?
Right. And like if you're not getting extension here, you're gonna find it. You're gonna find it somewhere. So are you extending more through this part of
Yep. That last joint.
Yeah.
Or ripping the skin off. And
I mean, you'll see people that have really stiff first rays here.
Yeah.
Right. And they're like distal phalanx. They can like crank it in. Yeah. Because that's where they're getting their motion.
Yep. I had a client the other day who had a pretty limited dorsiflexion in the ankle. Crazy toe dorsiflexion. Insane.
You'll find it. You'll steal it from somewhere. I mean, compensation isn't, I don't think, it's the way we get around.
It's the body solving the equation.
Right.
Yeah.
So, do you want to take away everyone's compensations? I don't think so, but I think you need to watch on eventually those compensations are going to be like, well, maybe we need to find a different strategy now.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can work on that because I've been playing with that for a while. It's just a thing that doesn't seem to want to.
Yeah. I got a bunch of stuff for you.
Cool.
Yeah. Because you can see how that metatarsal is slightly elevated there. And that means that
it's been
the rhythm, the timing of that motion is going to happen too soon.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, I would have shaved if I would have known we were going to be close-upping on my foot, but it's all right. That's safe for the weekend. So, we talked a bit about some of my weird left field theories a little, or I kind of presented those to you in an email and you seem to be interested in some of those. So, and to reverse a bit or rewind a bit to a prior part of our conversation, we were talking about walking and gait, which for me is the most fundamental movement. I mean, it's our survival strategy. It's how you do everything. It's how you go drink water, chase a rabbit, right? Run from a predator, go talk to that cute girl, whatever. Like walking and running is everything. It's the most fundamental human movement. So first, we have to examine that belief system in cycling that you should only be riding your bike and you shouldn't walk. Yeah. This is incorrect. It's just flat out incorrect. Because it violates natural law. But I did a podcast many years ago. It's load.
You have load when you walk.
Yes.
You have ground reaction force. Those are good things.
Well, so that highlights the list of differences between cycling and walking and running, right? And so my interview with Jess Elliott, who's this really brilliant strength and conditioning coach, I did that probably a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
She said something that stuck with me. She was like, my cyclists that I see when I work with them, they're not really that good at reacting or interrelating with the ground. And that's so true, like cycling, because cycling is, so we're sitting on a bike.
Yeah.
It is concentric movement only. There's no eccentric load. On the backside, the muscles are not loaded. The only eccentric load in cycling would be if you were a package courier who lived in San Francisco and you rode a fixie with no brakes, right? So you'd have to go down the hill and go and push against the pedal to not die.
Right.
That's eccentric load, to illustrate it for people. So that's how we think about that. But also cycling is open chain. Walking and gait are closed chain. So I'll define what that means. And additionally, there's no heel strike in cycling. because the heel's floating.
Yeah.
And we're in a rigid
Yeah.
structure anyway. So closed chain means when you push against something, it doesn't move. So when I push against the ground, no matter how hard I put, I mean, maybe I'm pretty strong. So the earth probably moves a little bit when I push, but not enough for you to notice. We'll just say that. But really, closed chain means you push against something and it doesn't move. Or like a pull-up would be closed chain because the bar doesn't move. You're moving against relative to the bar, right? Open chain, which is mostly cycling. The majority of cycling is open chain because you push and the pedal moves away from you.
Yeah.
So this is one of several reasons why when we do a squat, or more applicably a lunge, which is a unilateral exercise in the gym, you lunge into the ground and you push down and push away. It doesn't exactly replicate the tension on the muscles like cycling does.
Yeah.
It's close, but it's not the same. Whereas a leg sled, which I don't recommend people use in general, a leg sled, you push the sled away from you, so that'd be open chain. But there's no, even if you're a really sloppy runner and you're slamming the ground with that heel hard, there's a nervous system response and reactivity to the ground force that will register in the central pattern generator and into the nervous system, right? And that informs gait. Also, there's all that sensory apparatus is sliding if we're on ice, or we're on mud, or we're on sand, or baby head rocks, or strawberry sized rocks, or whatever. And side note, I think one of the reasons that I can't stand Hokas or ons so much is because foam is evil. This is one of my theories. What natural surface can you think of that resembles the texture or density of foam? Is there anything? Maybe the only thing I can come up with is you're next to a pond, and for some reason you decide you're going to go hunt a beaver or a catfish, right? You're living, I don't know what, maybe in the Rockies, and you step in that like silty mud kind of. But even that
it'd still be soft, right?
It's not foam. There's nothing like foam.
Yeah.
Foam is evil, and I think it really messes with our nervous system. And I have my N of 1 on this is years ago, I worked for the Garmin Sharp team on their sports science program, and I did the Tour de France as a staff member, which is really hard. People don't tell you how hard it is. They talk about how hard it is as a staff member.
Woman that I worked with, and she was a staff member, and she was like,
it wrecks you.
Yep.
It's like hours of car time, crappy food, bad hotels, 10-hour days, 12-hour days, and repeat for 3 weeks straight. Anyway, so lots of stress, no outlet. Then you go to the bar at 6 p.m. after the stage is over, and now all the other directors, everybody wants to have a beer. It's like, oh, this is not good. So, but you get time to run occasionally. It's about the only thing you can do to stay active. So I went for a run, and I was running in my minimalist shoes. I think I had some Vivo Barefoots with me, if I recall correctly. And this was early in my transitional period where I was like, I'm going to try running in these. It was the first couple of times, and I had some success. And then other times I'd run for 10 or 15 minutes, immediate knee pain, hip pain, just didn't have the biomechanical integrity to do it. And also didn't have the body awareness to really, or the understanding of what I was trying to do in gait, or what I should be trying to do in gait. So there was all that train wreck. And then one day I was like, we're sponsored by New Balance. Now I'll just be direct. I hate New Balance shoes. I freaking hate them. They're garbage. They're part of what's making the world a not happy place. I'm just gonna gloves off. Like, I hate the aesthetics of them. I hate the marketing of them. Can't stand them. They're just cheap crap. I'll stop. So, but we're sponsored by New Balance, so I had New Balances, and they weren't like a maximalist shoe. They were a normal, whatever, average bell curve running shoe. Like, okay, I'll go run in these because I was in some city somewhere in France, and there was only no park, no trails. So I'm running in these shoes. 30 minutes in, I'm like, my nervous system is freaking out. My legs and muscles are like spasming almost. Like I'm a longtime athlete. I know, the good pain from the bad pain. This was like like my muscle fibers were, I can't describe it any other way than they were just really freaking out.
Yep.
It was the foam.
It's kind of a cool experiment to do, because I was testing some different running shoes. Mm-hmm. And, I'm always in minimal footwear, right? So I was testing a very, same thing. Super cushy, like high foam shoe. Mm. And I'm same thing. I'm like 15, 20 minutes. And I'm like, my back.
Yeah.
Like it really changed the dynamics of literally, my back was sore for 3 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm always like, reminded when I do these little demos. Like then one time I ran in a pair of Sauconys, which do not for me, they are not a good shoe at all. And I'm 5 minutes into my run, my toes are going numb.
Yep.
So I'm always reminded, like every time I try to let me just see what happens. I'm always like, yep.
Confirmation.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the goldfish doesn't know it's in the water. So if you've only run in those shoes ever, you just think that's a normal part of running experience. And again, not to beat the dead horse, but this takes us back to the belief system that exercise should be misery, that, no pain, no gain. If you're not, so we're smart enough in bike fitting now to understand that there are aspects of bike fitting. There's good constructive pain because you're exercising hard and you want to go ride the lookout as fast as you can. Okay, you get to the top. Your legs are going to hurt. Your lungs are going to hurt. That's what you signed up for.
Right.
You tried to go fast. Then give your body a couple days to rest, and then try it again and see if you're faster. This is a normal process. But if your crotch is numb, your toes are numb, your neck and back are in excruciating pain, your hands are numb or tingling, your shoulders, these are not pain. These are not aspects of cycling or any athletic experience that we should just assume are part of the.
I mean, that first scenario with the cycling is what I think we live for. I like I like those days.
Right.
I don't want to have, my neck being in pain because I've, been sitting on my trainer for 4 hours.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
So
cycling, for me, there has to be a neurological aspect to go back to the decerebrate cats. The takeaway for me in that experiment is that you remove a critical part of the animal athlete's brain. They still, gait is hardwired into the spinal column of a vertebrate, right? It's hardwired. What does the kid do? Their whole mission is boob, walk. That's it. That's their entire universe. And then when we can't keep up those two missions anymore, we sleep. So as soon as they can walk, their whole universe is about exploring locomotion and walking. And as soon as they can do that, they can. And gait is, I think, considered to be the synopsis of primal movement or infant development. It is the culmination of those skills, right? I did a great podcast with Helen Hall, if you know her. She's a British runner, right? A run coach. And I was telling her that cycling shoes shut down all the sensory apparatus of feet. She did not like that. She was like, no, but I think philosophically, she couldn't get her head wrapped around it. She was like, no, feet are these marvelous sensory, devices. And I was like, but cycling turns all that off. And anyway, it was a great conversation. Brilliant woman. And so we talk about, she also talks about tickly feet and waking up that programming of the infant development that were some of the missing. She uses the analogy of Legos in your basement.
Yeah.
Right. Have you heard this talk? So she talks about missing Legos, and if you have infant development that it culminates in proper gait theory, then you can run and walk and do all the other things, play soccer and tennis and ride bikes with functional athletic movement and cohesive nervous system patterns, properly developed engrams. But if we're missing a couple of those infant development Legos in the basement, then the foundation of the house doesn't quite come out right. Yeah. And tickly feet, if you have ticklish feet as an adult, she maintains that that's one of the signs that you're missing a Lego
I would agree.
Or two. You do?
I would agree. Yep.
Yeah. So is that a test?
When you have someone and you're like, as soon as I get down to their foot, and if they're
like, whoa,
I'm like, we have a lot of work to do here.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
There's also a cool, you can take a 256 vibration fork.
Tuning fork.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I'll put it at the bottom of the heel.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And people
right at the center of the calcaneus.
Right at the center of the calcaneus.
Yeah.
You should be able to feel not only touch, but also vibration.
Oh.
And there are, patients when you cannot feel that vibration, you can also put it like the sinus tarsi. Mm-hmm. People have had ankle sprains. And when people start to lose what they can feel and lose the sensation of that vibration, you have work to do.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. That makes sense.
Yeah. That tickling feet thing now, you should be able, feet should not be ticklish.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a remnant from a missing Lego, I think is how Helen would, I'm speaking for her a bit, but I think that's what she would say.
And that's why I like the whole callus thing too. You want your feet to look resilient.
Yes. Yeah.
So I tell my female patients too, I'm like, don't go get your pedicure and have them start cutting off all the callus.
No.
They're there for a reason.
They are there for a reason. Yeah.
And if you have
Yeah.
people, which I have many patients who've had foot pain where they never let their foot see the ground, they look like baby feet.
Yeah.
You know?
Same thing. You shake someone's hand and their hand is like,
Yeah.
like it starts to keep
I have
and
to
that's
think
it.
about that. Two soft hands.
Yeah.
It's it's tough for me.
I understand.
Might be a good place to
I
end
understand. So, okay. I want to look up my email with you because I wrote, was it in this one? No.
It was the last one you sent me.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I got it. Thank you. So the first one was the left field. I have an idea that both cycling and gait must be driven by the central pattern generator, but cycling is open chain, lacks any capacity for heel strike, and lacks eccentric load, and puts a pivot between our legs. That's the other, from a bike fitting perspective, that's the real confounding variable, because we're meant to engage with the ground. Like Jess said, cyclists aren't good at engaging the ground because the feet are in open chain movement all the time. But then the other problem is we put a pivot point under our ischium. And so the likelihood of, if we have a slight imbalance, that's somewhat corrective when you're running and walking, because the ground is always there.
Yes.
So you strike harder with one leg, you can hear it, and we can hear it in the gait, right? When you do an assessment, but it probably can't spiral too excessively, I would think. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I had a client in here yesterday. No shit. 20 kg in standing difference.
Oh, really?
Between left and right.
Any surgeries, like any past medical history, anything like that? Ankle sprains?
Right. Nothing major, but what the most likely explanation we came up with was that he's a construction worker who, we're out of the screen a little bit for you there.
Just get comfortable here.
Yeah, that's all right. The likely explanation that we came up with was he's a construction worker and he carried a very heavy toolbox with the left arm always, and he did a lot of work with lumber and bags of sand and concrete and that kind of stuff, always hoisted on the left shoulder.
It's so interesting because I had a patient who was an FBI agent. And he was my last patient of the night. Every time he'd come in. Right. So he'd come in at the end of the day. And by the time he'd come into my office, he had changed out of his clothes. And he had this like kind of funky gait to him. Right. And he was just a little heavier on one side. And so we were working with him and, he's getting better. But I still was like, there was something that just wasn't quite like meshing with me. And then one night he was running late. And so he still had his like work clothes on. And he had his gun on the right side. And so it was just this pattern that he had been, and you just add that little bit of load sometimes. And, do people adapt? But it was really interesting to me that you could start to see those gait changes based on, environment and what you do.
Sure.
And I think that just goes back to the variability. You have to move your system in different positions all the time.
We all sort of build. The analogy I use is that we build a canyon. Like movement is a river. And every movement we do is a molecule or a gram or a liter of water, whatever you want to call it. And so we start off with this little trickles, babies. But then it grows and it goes and it carves a canyon. And if we end up with a box canyon with a river that just goes like this, then our movement movement options are very limited, right? If you only ride a bike, you've got a really narrow canyon. And you try to do anything else, you're going to meet resistance, right? We don't want a narrow canyon.
Yeah, you got to have a bigger canyon.
You got to have a wider canyon. And we also want to direct where the water is going, right? That's our dream goal or objective. So if you're moving towards a certain goal, but it's nebulous or it's incoherent or not aligned with your, we'll say, your true heart, right? If it's a goal that if you grew up in a household where your dad was like, Courtney, you should really, shoot skeet, be a biathlete. You're like, that doesn't really interest me. And he just hammered you and made you do it. Then, years later, lo and behold, you're manifesting injuries in your sport.
Right.
Or I have to wonder if your FBI client, carrying carrying a gun that's capable of killing a human on your hip all the time.
Right. Like, what does your nervous system do with that kind of stuff?
Exactly.
That's a whole nother conversation.
Exactly. Right. What does your nervous system do with that? I mean,
I think gait is very environmental too, right?
Sure.
Like,
well, safety.
Yeah.
Right. How safe are you in your environment? And how do you, if you feel unsafe in an environment, how do you solve that problem? You run.
Yeah.
That's gait.
What's that? There's that biker show. What the hell was it?
Like
the lead character is from Ireland. I forget the name of it, but he had this like walking gait that was very like kind of like this bro macho gait.
Mm-hmm.
And he was being interviewed, and they asked him. They said, "How did you learn to walk like this? You know, for this show?" Because he was in a biker gang, and he was like, "No." He's like, "I grew up in Ireland." He's like, and it was in a bad part of Ireland. He's like, so he adopted this gait where he like, you know, and that was his normal gait.
Okay,
it's pretty interesting,
huh? Yeah, gait is definitely. You can watch. Aren't airports so much fun?
Oh my god, it's like my favorite place, and I'm there a lot.
Yeah.
And I look at everybody's footwear.
Watch it. Oh, of course.
Because I mean, in my world, we're all wearing, you know, functional footwear. But when I get out into like the airport, I'm like, man, we got a lot of work to do.
Yep.
Because the numbers are small, but the foot pain numbers are not.
Yeah.
So
that's not just goal. Foot pain, right?
Yeah. I mean,
travel up the chain.
Right.
Get all the things. Yeah. If the foundation is weak.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's my mission.
Yes. Okay. So here's my other weird one. Well, so I think we've beaten that one to death. That first left field. Do you agree? Do you have one more you want to add on that?
Nope.
Okay. So here's my weird theory in cycling. Talking about safety. We want rotation in the heel in the transverse plane here. Most cycling cleats and shoes will allow this type of movement, right? We do not want rotation or too much freedom, or any freedom actually, in the frontal plane. My theory is you slide this way, usually you're okay. It's like this is a dangerous zone.
Yeah.
But thinking about safety and about falling, right? Because if you fall, you're dead to the tribe. So if you slide this way, usually it's like, whoa, I got this. Immediate response. But if you slide this way, fall this way or this way, you're usually falling off something. And this brings me to inception. That was my random example. Yep. So how does Leonardo wake up when he's in a dream within a dream? They fall. That's what wakes you up out of the dream, because falling is one of the most challenging nervous system inputs we can have. You start to fall and immediately everything stops. Nothing else matters, right? It's like, whoa, I'm going to die. I have to solve this problem now, instantly, by practical standards. And so when I have a pedal system that allows too much slop in it, specifically like a mountain bike pedal, where the lug contact, I don't have an example here, the lug contact on the side engages with the sides of the pedal, and that's what determines the lateral stability in that frontal plane.
That pedal.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly. We have a solid surface, right? So I have clients who come in and they aren't unaware of that. They've either got clapped out stuff that just needs to die and be replaced. So they've got all this play going this way, or they've got a system that they've modified somehow, or on a 2-bolt mountain bike shoe, if you try to shim the cleat, it destroys that stability because you can't shim the lugs simultaneously. So shimming a mountain bike shoe is problematic for all these reasons. So, but really from the perspective of the foot, do you think am I just making this up? Like this rock in the frontal plane, this would allow excessive pronation or supination potentially, that pivot point. Is there a reason why you could think neurologically that would be more challenging than this movement? Or
I think it's hard to break that down into frontal plane, transverse plane.
Okay.
Because I think it's all happening.
It's a spiral.
Together. Yes.
Of course it is. Yeah.
So
you're right.
I think we've come up with these planes.
Yeah.
So you and I can have a conversation.
But
when you look at that motion, it's all happening.
It's never, all joints are triplanar. All movement is, there's no uniplanar. You're right. This is one of the basic teachings of Goda. They don't use ION words in their system, like rotation or, pronation, supination, etc. They don't use these words because they're confusing to people and they alienate people from that. It's this other language. You know, you ask them to learn French or Italian.
We used to
whatever.
be taught like, get strong in the sagittal plane first, and then you do frontal, and then you do transverse, and it's like,
This doesn't make sense.
and that's why I just keep coming back to variability.
Meaning you're a proponent of variability in moving in multiple planes. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
In all in all different kinds of movement.
So, okay. So center point of that discussion, I would agree with that philosophy initially, for sure. I think I'm a big fan of moving joints in different ranges, applying different loads, durability, hard to kill. Goda would add to that their global laws. And their argument is that there are certain movements that are the best possible outcome. I don't think they're opposed to moving in all planes, but they would say, I think
more efficient.
And also we want to train certain patterns so that they become defaults.
Sure.
So we look at infant development and we look at how the spiral pattern of the leg musculature, right? And how the legs have turned out relative to the hands, or turned in. Now I'm struggling to find the model in my mind.
Yeah.
Rotated out this way. So the first ray has gone here, right? So, and the most commonly injured hamstring is biceps femoris, right? The lateral hamstring.
Sure.
So it suggests, and why is that? The more common pattern is excessive inward spiral or excessive pronation. So that sort of breadcrumbs to their movement system or their global laws, which is we want to really pre-arm most people towards outward spiral rather than allowing excessive internal spiral. Now, of course, you have someone who's trapped in supination, like trapped or locked, or their default tendency is that spiral. That's maybe a more nuanced conversation. But
I'm trying to break all of that down, because I think the concept of global laws is important, right? Like there's an efficiency that we'd be looking for. And I like the idea of kind of a default pattern. I get cautious about putting people under this, like, this is what everybody should be doing. So that's where I'm a little more nuanced than that in looking at the individual and what our goals are, right? Like I had a sprinter in the other day, and he's a football player, and he would be like, those concept of Goda for him, spot on. Because he was pushing off of his right foot. He had this really good internal rotation, quick contact off the ground, and the left side is just out to lunch, right? And so I don't know what their teaching techniques are, but very similar. We did the exact same thing. And like, we have to have more of this internal rotation and different spiral. And it was really cool to see what he could do, So in that situation, like by all means, like we want that quick contact round and I want you propelling forward.
Right.
So those are, I think, really important things to be able to identify and then also be able to implement. I'm cautious about this is the way. Yes.
Yeah. The law.
And I'm like that with every kind of system though. And when any continuing education or anything I've ever, gone down the path of, it's never an always or never for me. It's like, I take a little bit from all of this. I
agree.
So
I agree. So that, I'm sure you're familiar with the current state of bike fitting, but it's very like the sort of bell curve, I'll say gold standard right now is retool, which looks at joint angles. And I struggle with this for so many reasons, because bioindividuality for me rules everything. Somebody walks through the door, I don't care if their saddle knee angle puts them at 34 degrees or 28 or whatever. Like, that's irrelevant. Look at the function of the athlete. Look at them from all sides, top and bottom. Look at their dream goal or objective. Look at their function. Look at their injury history. Right. And then ask them what we're trying to accomplish. What are their challenges on the bike? And then map all that on top of how they present off the bike and on the bike. Right.
So many factors.
Right. There's no,
in taking all those into consideration, right? Like that's what makes you good at what you do, because you take the time to look and explore all these things.
You have to. It's an endlessly fractal challenge to work with humans and try to understand them and help them optimize their health.
But it's why it's never boring.
Never boring.
Right?
Always more lessons. And the second I think I got this figured out.
I say that all the time.
Right.
I'm like, oh, I'm good. And then I'm like, nope.
3 more people come to your door. You're like, what is happening here? What did I do?
I leave. I'm
This
like,
doesn't
oh
work
my
at all.
gosh, I don't know anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think those are, for as much as I don't like feeling like that, I think those are the days I cherish the most.
Yeah.
It reminds you like, God, there's so much out there to learn. And that's what I love.
Yes. Yes. It's the infinite fractal of the Dunning-Kruger curve.
Yep. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm reading Think Again, Adam Grant.
Okay.
It's so good. It's such a good book about, really challenging our biases.
Yes.
And how that can really make people get very upset.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
it's a great read.
Biases and belief systems. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you'd like that.
Okay. Think Again, it's called.
Yep.
Okay. And what is the author? Adam
Grant.
Adam Brandt. Okay, I'll check it out.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, Courtney, thank you so much for
that was fun.
come in.
Yeah.
And bounce all over the place with me.
I knew when I got
Talk
the
stuff.
email of questions that it was going to be a good one.
Cool.
So
Cool. Well, I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Tell everyone where they can find you and find out more about you and all the cool stuff. You have some online courses you offer on Gate Happens?
Yeah. So Gate Happens is my online educational company. So we do live courses, online courses. That's where we have like the toe spacers and the strengtheners and foot health kits and that kind of stuff. And then I do have an office in Colorado.
Okay. Here you work with patients or clients one-on-one and
lots of foot
their
gait
stuff. Gait. Yeah.
And I love it.
Cool. And we'll get a chance hopefully to see some new footwear from Strong Feet Athletics at some point down the road and try those out. And
Stride Lab. I was, like I said, I was excited to, the store is beautiful.
Okay.
And, this type of footwear is very different for people because they're so used to having their foot in a shoe that doesn't fit their foot. Mm-hmm. So to be able to try them on, and people sometimes be like, wow, this feels big. I'm like, no, that's what it should feel like. Yeah.
This is when your foot is not bound.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So I'm super excited about that. I'll be sending everybody there.
Do they have services like gait analysis and that kind of stuff or not?
No.
It's just a store.
It's just a store.
Okay.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say just a store, and I don't mean that in a pejorative way, but yeah. Do you do a lot of gait analysis with slow-mo on a treadmill and that kind of stuff, or how do you handle that?
I have all the systems, and I really I've gone so basic because I think you can just get so much information. You put your phone on slow motion,
right? And
you can see it all break down. And they have systems now where you can angle things, and I think you have to watch with who's in your door. What type of client do you have?
Right.
You got to be very careful.
A little more science nerdy.
Yes, but then you can be go to town.
Yeah.
But when you have people that, have these diagnoses that they've carried for a long period of time, you have to watch how much information, because it's just not necessary.
Yes.
Sometimes more is not better.
Yeah. And being so careful with terminology, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, because you're the expert. So if we break out the pronation word or the whatever, there's a million words you could use that they attach to.
I had a runner come in a couple of weeks ago, and her doctor told her that if she ran again, her foot was going to explode.
Oh man. Oh.
And I'm just I literally I almost made a phone call.
Right.
I almost made a phone call because now this poor woman is afraid, terrified.
Yeah.
And that's the worst thing we can do.
Yeah.
Words are very, very important.
They're so powerful.
Yep. Don't bring me your lumbar spine MRIs unless there's, reasons. And there are sometimes, absolutely.
Sure.
But this over analyzing of things that are naturally occurring in our bodies. Mm-hmm. I always say, do you look different than you did 20 years ago? So should your spine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
Don't be afraid to move.
Right.
So.
Puppy in the spectrum.
There we go. We circled back.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Don't be afraid to move. And one last belief system I'll add to is the getting old sucks perspective, which drives me insane. It really drives me insane because people just take that, they just regurgitate it. They just assume that when things hurt, I'm getting old. I'm not as fast as I used to be up lookout or whatever. It's there's no reason why that has to be the case. I'm I'm in many ways, I function far better than I did 20, 30 years ago now.
There's no doubt.
Far better.
I'm a much, I guess, well-versed athlete now than I was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
All I was doing was swimming, biking, and running. I mean, that was it.
Well, that's
a
bit, I might add. Well, you've got an advanced background.
Yeah. But
Which
it
has
was
its pros and cons.
right.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, there was not strength involved. There wasn't, like I wasn't loading like I should be.
Yeah.
And I hit 40 and I was like,
time to broaden so what's your go-to strength right now? May I ask?
I mean, I used to have I was on my bike a lot and I used to have chronic low grade back pain.
Yep.
And I mean, I was afraid to even lift up. If someone told me to deadlift, I'd be like, are you serious?
Wow. Okay.
And I was afraid.
Yep.
And now it's one of my favorite things to do.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Awesome.
So yeah, I'm in my Ebony Rio is a very big researcher on tendinopathy. So she's out of Australia, and I did a podcast with her once, and she's she'll tell her, athletes to never miss gym day. You got to find time to train your body under load.
Mm-hmm. Push heavy stuff.
You got to push heavy stuff.
Yeah.
You got to push, you got to pull, you got to, and I've really changed all of that in my training. And I have to say, I do feel better now than I really ever have. And I'm pushing 50. So
nice.
That's going to be the goal.
Yeah.
Right.
Nice. Yes. Keep feeling better.
That's right.
Yeah. Move more.
That's right.
Puppy spectrum. Awesome. Courtney, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
This was great.
Yeah, it was great.
All right. Hello there, Cycling in Alignment listeners. I'd like to take a brief moment to speak to you about the podcast. As of this recording, I'm well over 125 episodes in, and this has been a multi-year project. And I'd like to say that I'm very grateful for the opportunity to have this podcast. And I mean, I suppose just about anybody could have a podcast now. But what I have is an opportunity to really educate people about the things that I've learned and have amazing discussions with so many guests on my pod. And I've got so many more episodes planned in the future. That said, this podcast is a challenge for me. It's a challenge to put it on, to find the time, and it requires financial investment. I've got to pay for an editor. I've got to pay for equipment. I'm paying for software, paying for all the things you have to pay for when you put a podcast out into the world. And I have had financial supporters in the past. Enduro Bearings, namely, has been a great supporter. I've had other supporters as well. But moving forward, I'd like to offer a model in which my audience can show their appreciation directly. After a great amount of consideration and consternation on this topic, I've come to have a model in my mind. The model's really simple. If you have appreciation for the Cycling in Alignment podcast, if you have listened to my episodes and felt that it really has enriched your life, helped you, educated you, perhaps made you think about things from a different perspective, maybe you agreed with me on everything, maybe you agreed with me on just about nothing, but you listened anyway. I can't imagine that's the case, but I suppose it's possible. Maybe you agree with about 89% of what I say, and the other 11% of the time you think I am batshit crazy. In any case, if you would like to express your appreciation for the time, effort, and money that I put into this project, I would be grateful if you would go to my website, colbypierce.com, and click on the podcast page and offer some appreciation in the form of a financial contribution. This will help me offset the cost of this podcast. I may have other financial contributors in the future. This isn't a closed model by any means, but I do need to find a way to monetize this podcast. I've considered platforms like Patreon and others, but they seem convoluted and complicated. I don't really want to go to a paywall system. I really want to just offer content and teach, educate, discuss, philosophize, have great dialogue with the guests that I'm honored to have on my show. And to do this in the simplest way possible, I just need to push play, push record, that is, and then you push play and get it out there. That's always been one of my methods of operation, is keep it as simple as possible and just produce the content. I don't have a goal of growing an audience. My goal is to educate people. And if I do that well, then my audience will grow as a side effect of that. So another way to offer your appreciation is to share my podcast with other people, to write reviews for me, do all the things, click the stars and make the comments. That helps because we live in a world of algorithmic preferential treatment. But if you want to move the dial for me, then please go to my website. That's colbypierce.com. Click on the page titled podcast, and there you will see some options to make a contribution that demonstrates your appreciation for what I've done. And for that, I will be grateful. There'll be a few different levels to this page, and the highest level will get you some goodies in as a thank you, including some woolly Rafa t-shirts printed with my Pierce Coaching and Fitting logo. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you in advance for anything you can do to help me spread the word. If you aren't in a position to contribute financially or don't want to, again, you can help by simply forwarding my podcast, sharing it with other people, sharing it with your friends, tell people about it on rides, spread the word, and even just send me a message and let me know if I've moved the dial for you. Send me a message and let me know if you have pertinent questions. Also, at the highest level of the podcast contribution page, you will have the opportunity to submit a personalized question for detailed analysis on an episode or a private consultation, if that's what you prefer. So that's going to be something I can offer you in return for your financial contribution to my podcast. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. I'm so grateful for my audience. I appreciate you and the opportunity you've given me. Epilogue. I want to share a few brief thoughts about the inception of cycling and alignment. The purpose of this podcast is for me to get 3.5 decades of hard-fought lessons out of my skull. Some of them through my own research and reading. Some of them I've been taught through mentors and colleagues, other riders, other racers. A lot of it, a massive amount of it, was simply trial and error through my own stubborn methods. And that has amassed a certain amount of experience and knowledge, understanding. And while I think I'm reasonably smart and I know quite a bit of stuff, I want to make it clear that the opinions that I share on this podcast are belief systems built on what I've experienced to this point. And that some of those opinions are pretty strong, but they are also loosely held. That is to say that if I learn more about a topic and have a greater level of clarity or understanding, then my old belief systems will be abandoned and I will now operate under that newfound knowledge. So I'm not here to tell people all the things that I know. I'm here to explain what I've learned to this point. And there's a big difference. Also, that is the intent when I discuss things on the pod with guests, is to learn from them and have a discourse. Because if we can't have a discourse as adults, then we've lost one of the basic tenets of modern society. Even if we disagree, we ought to be able to, in most cases, shake hands and walk away. Because after all, this is sport we're talking about, and while sport is training for life, it's nothing to get too upset over. The purpose of the podcast is to help me help other people, and specifically to help them actualize their highest potential by illuminating a path that enables alignment with their truth, their intent, and their coherence. That's really the end goal. So I'm grateful for your listening. My intent is also not, to be clear, to gain an audience or become popular or gain social status in any way. I don't care about that stuff. That said, if you feel an episode that you have heard will help someone you know, please share it with them. That helps us reach the end goal, which is to help more people. Thank you for listening. I'm grateful for your time and attention. Blessings.